Hi, my name is Tony Van Veen, CEO of Discmakers. You know, over the past couple of weeks, I have seen two press releases from two different organizations, one for artists and one an organization for managers, appealing to Spotify and trying to get Spotify to increase their streaming payouts from an average of between 0.3 cents and 0.5 cents per stream today to a penny per stream. And that got me thinking, how much actually should Spotify pay out today to artists so that they have an opportunity to make as much money from their music being listened to as in the olden days when music was being sold, either as downloads or as CDs. And so I did some calculations and I want to run through the exercise with you, and I'm going to be comparing the Spotify stream payouts versus a CD that is sold through distribution, a CD album sold direct at your merch table to fans, an iTunes album, and an iTunes single. Now, there are a few criteria that I looked at and some assumptions that I made. Particularly, an average album contains 10 songs, which is, a reasonable estimate. And then the trickier one is, how many listens would you have for an album or a single that you bought in the past that you liked? So you like this album, how many times do you listen to it? And I polled a number of people, and I got numbers anywhere between 25 listens to 100 listens. So for purposes of this exercise, I chose the somewhat arbitrary 40 listens per album or song that I bought in order to be able to calculate a net dollars per listen, which is your payout equivalent of the payout per stream. So let's start going through this and we'll see how the numbers look. So let's start with Spotify. Now, I'm going to use what I have been getting paid over the past few years from Spotify for my music on CD Baby. I'm not going to include the CD Baby commission. This is the straight up Spotify payout. So the retail price, of course, there is no retail price for a Spotify stream because the consumer doesn't pay retail, the consumer pays a subscription fee. So wholesale, what I get paid by Spotify is $0.0044 or 0.44 cents per stream. There is no manufacturing cost, so the profit margin to me per stream is the same 0.0044. The profit per song, since it's a stream for one song, it's the same thing, 0.0044. Okay, stick with me. It's going to get more exciting, and the net listen is the same, 0.0044. Okay, so how about a CD sold through distribution? Back in the day, CDs were sold through distribution, and they would retail for about $14. The wholesale price the distributor would pay to the label, or to you if you were lucky enough to have distribution direct as an artist, would be usually around $7, and the cost to manufacture a CD was roughly $1. So the profit then per album sold is 7 minus 1, $6. And the profit per song at our assumption of 10 songs per album is 60 cents. So if you divide that 60 cents by the 40 listens that we agreed to compare for the streaming payouts, 60 divided by 40 is 0.015. So 1.5 cents per listen is roughly an estimated payout if you sold a CD through distribution and somebody listened to it 40 times per song. All right, so if you sold a CD direct, you're not going to sell for $14 at your merch table. Let's assume you're selling them for $10. There is no wholesale because you are selling direct, and your manufacturing cost is still roughly $1. So your profit margin is $9, and the profit per song then is 90 cents. So 90 cents, 40 listens, we are talking about a payout per listen of 0.0225. You can break out your calculator, you can run it in Excel. Trust me, these numbers work. So 2.25, 2.25 cents per listen roughly for somebody who bought your CD at your gig and listened to it 40 times, paid you $10. All right, now iTunes album. Of course, everybody knows the iTunes album sold for $9.99. iTunes paid a wholesale number of $7 to the distributor or to the label. There is zero manufacturing cost, and so your profit margin is $7. So per song, that equates to 70 cents, and divided by 40 listens, we are talking about 0.0175. So 1.75 cents per listen. And then the iTunes single at 99 cents. No, and the wholesale number was that iTunes paid was 70 cents, no manufacturing cost. And so your profit per download was 70 cents, which was also your profit per song, because we're talking about a single here. And so your net dollars per listen is 0.0175, also 1.75 cents. So when you look at that, while Spotify pays 0.0044 or 0.44 cents per stream, everybody else is between 1.5 and 2.25 cents, every other option. So if Spotify were to pay in the ranges that physical or downloads used to pay, it would be a multiple, of course Spotify, that's a 1, but it would be 3.4x. 1.5 cents is 3.4 times what Spotify pays today. For an album sold direct, it's 5.1 times. And for an iTunes album or single, it's 4 times. Now, what are the odds that Spotify would actually pay any of these? 0. What are the odds that they would actually pay a penny, which is lower than all of these physical and download formats paid on average before we went to streaming? Even a penny is, I would see, as extremely unlikely and probably not going to happen at all. In fact, the numbers for Spotify with regards to their per stream payouts are going in the opposite direction. They are getting lower as Spotify enters more emerging economies where the subscription rates are lower, as Spotify increases its bundles, its family plans, its student plans, their payouts per stream get lower. And frankly, Spotify is already paying the bulk of its revenues to the rights holders. Spotify pays over 60% to rights holders, which is a lot for any company to pay out to its content providers. And so we don't see that Spotify can go up in the percentage that it pays out. So the only way for Spotify to pay more is to charge the consumer more. And there is no way that the consumer is going to pay 3 times or 5 times what they're paying now. Instead of paying $9.99 for a subscription plan, you're not going to pay $30, you're not going to pay $50. And if you try to raise the price that way, a lot of streaming subscribers would exit and go to some free ad-supported model, which actually drives payout rates down even further. So I'm sorry I can't offer you much hope. I hope you found this exercise helpful as an intellectual exercise. In the meantime, keep making music, keep selling music, keep making great songs and recording them and getting out there. And at some point, you will be able to get back to performing live and making and selling physical music, physical product. Hope you found this helpful. See you next time.